Hey everybody, it's your girl Taylor from Got You Aesthetics, and I thought I'd do a video today on tips and tricks with air dry polish. So let's get into it. So depending on the place you work, sometimes they'll allow you to use the Dremel for your prep before air dry polish, like a Russian manicure, dry pedicure, whatever the circumstance. And then some places do not allow you to do that. So we're gonna lean on the side of that they are not allowing you to use the Dremel for your air dry. And here are some tips on how to make it kind of peachy keen jelly beans. So you're gonna do what you normally do. Let's pretend that my nails are naked and don't have anything on them. But you're gonna push them like always. That's nothing new. But the one thing is that after you do all of your nipping, cut off anything, obviously, but it's not necessary. But you'll have lots of time dry, crusty, dead, stuck on cuticle, around the cuticle area, sometimes down by the side walls. You can use either a sandstone. I know that when I was in school for aesthetics, we had these little pink cute ones that you could use to kind of do that and go around. Or you can use your etching block, and then you can also just buff around there, get it all smooth. And depending on how thick and crusty it is, you can even just use your regular mani file. So this must be around 230, 180, 230, and then just lightly go around the cuticle area, around the sidewalls, and then you can get all that crusty stuff off, and then you'll have a perfect edging of your nail polish, so it'll be perfectly crisp all around with proper polish application. But if you have any of that dry cuticle stuff around there, then it can get stuck and then it can make it not look as perfect. Another thing that you can run into when doing regular air dry polish is when people have furrows. So furrows are kind of those lines there, they kind of go outward, they're grooves, and they go vertically down your nail. And then you could also do corrugations, and so that would be the ones that go horizontally across the nail. So on that circumstance, sometimes people will have really bad furrows and really thin nails, but you can just do a light buff. But if their nails are really thin, you don't want to buff too much. You're gonna do a light buff, and then you're gonna use a ridge filler base coat. So then what that will do is that'll fill the ridges of the furrows, and then the polish that goes on top afterwards will look very smooth. But I do suggest if anyone has corrugations or if they have furrows, not to do the sheer polishes, just because you might be able to see it after you fill it in with the ridge filler, unless there's a clear one. But most of the ridge fillers that I'm aware of have either a milky kind of look to them. Another thing with that as well is that if they have thicker nails, you can obviously, maybe you can use a Dremel depending where you work, you can Dremel that, or you can use your etching block, or you can use your regular manicure file and file it down a bit so it's nice and smooth, and then you don't even have to worry about ridge filler anymore. You can just apply the polish on top. Let's go more into the corrugations, or if sometimes people have a pit and that grows consistently through their nail cycle. It's kind of like they had damage to their matrix, so every once in a while a pit appears in their nail. So with that too, I would not suggest the sheer polishes, because if you're filling it, polishing it with the sheer polish will pool in the pit, and then it'll be very sheer elsewhere, but in the pit it's going to be very dense, it's going to be very wet, so it might even have it's definitely going to have a hard time drying because it needs time to dry, but you're going to be basically pooling it into that pit. So in that circumstance, if someone's wanting an all sheer polish set, you can also suggest to them that they could do one accent nail, which is just glitter, and glitter is very forgiving. You won't notice anything. Or you do an opaque polish, one that has lots of color density so that you won't really notice the indentation as much. So those are kind of my suggestions on those topics. My next tip would be, so every service usually incorporates a massage. So for your air dry, the massage happens before the polish because normally they want the polish to dry at the end and you're not sure if it's going to be completely dry by the time the client leaves or not, so they do the massage before the polish. So, but when doing that, it's really good to make sure that the nail plate is completely cleaned. So make sure that there is no lotion, or if you put cuticle oil on before the polish application, you want that to be completely clean, because if you put polish on top of a cuticle oily nail, it will just slide kind of off. And it might not slide off when the client is there, but it will slide off at some point. So like if the client wore sandals and then she went home or whatever, like try to put on a sock and then it'll just kind of slide off because it needs to stick to the nail plate. And then on that topic as well, if you find that like you want a little bit of extra oomph for having air dry polish to stick, just lightly buff the nail plate. You don't have to go crazy about it, but if you lightly buff it, you're creating textures which the polish can connect to. And then the polish will adhere more to the nail and it'll have less of a time sliding off or anything like that. And then we'll also talk about, since that also makes me think of sliding off, not good things to happen when you're working with air dry polish, is making sure you're using thin coats and only doing up to 3 coats of color. So I know that when I first started doing aesthetics and I wasn't too familiar with like which polishes are sheer, which polishes are opaque, and wasn't confident talking to clients and telling them, well, maybe if you want this certain look, you should try a different color. So as a suggestion, as an example, I could tell you, like, let's say OPI. Everyone knows Funny Bunny and Alpine Snow. So in OPI, Funny Bunny is the milky sheer polish and Alpine Snow is the opaque white. So like lots of girls in the summer want that opaque white to kind of like pop, show off the tan, you know, the whole thing. So when you're new and you don't know the difference between Alpine Snow and Funny Bunny, and the client might also not know the difference between Alpine Snow and Funny Bunny, it's good to ask the client what is the look that they're looking for, and also be aware of which polishes give what effect, which polishes are more sheer, which polishes are more opaque, so you can guide them into the right direction and you're not stuck there feeling under pressure. You're doing the Funny Bunny, but she wants it very opaque, so you're putting on layers on layers on layers, but it's not gonna dry. And they will complain afterwards because like they want it to stay, right? So it's very good to familiarize yourself with the polishes and then doing the thin coats. If you feel like your polish is quite thick, do not be afraid to add polish thinner. And you might think, oh, I might be adding on too much more time, especially when you're new and you're starting out. You're gonna be under pressure, you might be running a little behind, and you're like, I don't have time to use polish thinner. So then you apply the polish thickly, and then it also has a hard time drying because it is so thick. And then also you're not gonna get that beautiful crisp outlining as well, and you're gonna have some weird textures. Top coat might fix the weird textures that you've created with your thick, gelatinous, crustiest kind of like, it's weird. It's not great, and you will be able to tell right away. And also it'll take you longer to polish because now you're trying to work with this gelatinous thick polish instead of being able to work with something with high viscosity and all that kind of good stuff. So do not think you're gonna save time by not adding polish thinner. You're gonna either make more work for yourself, you're gonna waste more time, and you're gonna regret it in the end. Trust. So those would be my biggest air dry polish tips. I hope that you found all the advice helpful. Like if you thought it was helpful. Comment if you also have any great suggestions and tips of your air dry polish application and what really helped you when you were an apprentice. And then subscribe if you want to see more fun kind of nail and aesthetics kind of content. So have a great day, guys. Bye.